Mayor Greg Ballard and Congressman André Carson. Of course, Mitch Daniels could potentially be running against President Obama in 2012. Daniels said recently that he will announce plans whether or not he will run for president in the next few weeks. Today, he will greet his potential foe in that political arena. So it could be a curious conversation, certainly, when that happens. As you can see, we're looking right now, they have pulled up the presidential limousine, and they are putting the steps up to the plane as we await the president's arrival here at Indianapolis International Airport. The main purpose of his visit, of course, he's going to be visiting Allison Transmission in Speedway. He's set to speak there to the workers there at about 12:15. He's going to be talking clean energy, green jobs, and his plan to deal with rising prices at the pump. Of course, oil prices have been going down recently, but prices at the pump have not. So that'll give him a lot of fodder with which to speak about. In fact, oil prices right now, again, are down, but the Indiana average right now for prices at the pump are $4.25, which is a record high for Indiana. And it's a pain that a lot of Hoosiers are feeling every time they fill up their car. So the president is expected to talk about that and present a plan to deal and combat with those rising oil prices. The reason it's Allison Transmission is because at that company, they actually received a $63 million economic stimulus grant 2 years ago. They make things for hybrid vehicles, specifically trucks and buses. So the president's expected to talk about what the taxpayers are getting for that investment, that economic stimulus grant. Allison is the largest producer of hybrid propulsion systems. Basically, it's a technology for buses and trucks and allows them to increase their fuel economy by 25%. And Allison recently said that they are actually going to be expanding, and they will eventually have the capacity to produce about 20,000 commercial duty hybrid propulsion systems per year. And again, they say that technology can increase fuel economy by 25%. And there you see him now, President Obama, exiting the plane. A wave to the crowd.
And Jenny, as you mentioned, we see Representative André Carson behind him, flying on Air Force One. The Transportation Secretary Ray LaHood standing right to the right of Representative Carson. And the president on the ground here in Indianapolis. Of course, this was a state that Barack Obama won for president back in 2008. He visited Indianapolis during his presidential campaign nearly 50 times, and he's back again today, as Jenny has mentioned, to talk about energy policy, the high rising price of gas. And we expect him to talk perhaps about unemployment. The nation's unemployment rate went up to 9% today, but private sector payrolls increased by 268,000 jobs in April. So we may be hearing the president talk about the nation's unemployment rate and the jobs that have been added. You can see the president speaking there with Mayor Greg Ballard as well, Jenny.
Yeah, you know, you'd really want to be a fly on the wall for this conversation with Governor Daniels, wouldn't you, Scott? As you mentioned, Obama won here in Indiana narrowly in 2008 by less than 30,000 votes. Of course, he hopes to keep that in 2012, but it could be an interesting dynamic if, in fact, Governor Mitch Daniels decides to run. By the way, you can also see there Brad Stevens, the Butler basketball coach, is actually talking with President Obama as well, so what a thrill for him. Of course, he got the call after their championship game. The president did call the team, called Stevens, and congratulated them on their tremendous run during March Madness, Scott.
Yeah, that's got to be a real thrill for Brad Stevens there to be talking basketball. As you know, the president is a huge basketball fan. He didn't actually choose Butler in the championship game, but there he is talking with the Butler basketball coach and perhaps talking hoops, and I'm sure that's a big thrill for Brad Stevens to be talking about this. The president will be here in Indiana really just a short time today, 2 hours in total. He'll be speaking at 12:15. You'll be seeing that speech live here on Channel 13. We'll also stream it on WTHR.com. Once he's done with that speech, it's back to Air Force One, and then he's headed to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and perhaps a bigger national story taking place in Kentucky today, where the president will be greeting members of Navy SEALs 6, the group that raided, shot, and killed Osama bin Laden. That meeting will be taking place in private this afternoon. So the president wrapping up his brief conversation with Mayor Ballard, Representative Carson.
Looks like the folks here that I mentioned, about 70 or so, will get that handshake they were wanting. President jogging over. He is known to glad hand and give the folks some pictures. There are a lot of cameras as everybody's awaiting his arrival. Again, a lot of children, a lot of older folks, many of these Democratic supporters, a lot of them just regular Hoosiers, getting a big cheer from the president now.
And we're mindful, of course, that the president is running for re-election, and Indiana will figure to be an important state in 2012. So making sure to take advantage of shaking every hand while he's here in central Indiana today. What kind of crowd are you seeing there, Jenny? What kind of crowd is gathered there to see the president?
Well, I did talk to them briefly. Again, there was a high school student, took the day off from Carmel High School to stop by. One of his relatives, distant relatives, he said, actually works in Washington, D.C. in the administration. So he got the invite. But a lot of them are regular Hoosiers, some Democratic supporters, and most of them just brought cameras. They said they were just thrilled to be able to meet the president in person, and they weren't sure if this moment was actually going to happen. Of course, it is a tight schedule, as you mentioned. They weren't sure if he would just get in the motorcade and take off, but certainly he did stop and shake their hands, and he's spending some time chatting with them right now. And you can see behind him is the National Press Corps, who, of course, goes along on every trip documenting what the president does in each visit.
This has certainly been a big week for the president. The success in the elimination of Osama bin Laden, the raid in Pakistan, his popularity has gone up as a result of that. But now the president really has said that he wants to get back to business. He wants to get back to the economy and deal with the things that many Hoosiers and many Americans are dealing with. And, of course, the central part of today's Indiana visit is about high gas prices, energy policy, and trying to figure a way to help out the people who are paying well over $4 a gallon for gas. Do you get any sense, Jenny, in your conversations out there with people, how people feel impacted by the high price of gas and what, if anything, the president can do about that?
They certainly are feeling the punch from those prices at the pump, Scott. You know, there was that excitement over Osama bin Laden's death.